Okay, if we're looking at problem number 1, we have an amplitude of 3, period of 180, vertical phase shift of 2, horizontal phase shift of 30, and a y-intercept of 3.5. A few things here. Make sure that you're using a straight edge. Okay, I will take points off. I didn't take any points off on the in-class assignment, but I noted it there. If you're not using a straight edge, I will take points off on the quiz. Please use a straight edge. Okay, also please take your graph back to the y-intercept. Okay, y-intercept is 3.5, take it back to 3.5. Okay, so we're taking a look at our solution here. We did a pretty good job of spacing things out for the most part. Some of you struggled a little bit in regards to the size. For the most part though, we did a decent job of this. And I can space out by 30s here. I can space out by 30s and count by 30s out. Okay, the first thing we're going to draw is our prime axis. Our prime axis is a value of 2. We have a y-intercept or vertical phase shift of 2. Okay, then when we start running into problems is, okay, we had to take a look and evaluate. We have a cosine function, so we're starting at a peak, and our theta start value is your horizontal phase shift. So your theta is your horizontal phase shift is your theta start value. So at 30, I'm going to start my theta value, and my trig function cosine tells me I need to be at a peak or a valley. Since it's a positive cosine, I will be at a peak. So at 30, my amplitude is a value of 3, so I need to go up 3 from my vertical phase shift. Next thing we go to is the period. The period is 180 degrees. So from 30, I go out to 210. We'll be at a peak again. Then we start playing our games of halves. Between any two peaks will be a valley, which gives us a value of, let's see, 30 plus 210, it's 240, 120. We'll be down -1. And then halfway between 30 and 120 is 75, so that's going to give me my half here. I'll be on the prime axis, and my half here on the prime axis. And we need to take this back to the y-intercept also, which is 3.5. Second one, we have amplitude of 2, period of 720, vertical phase shift of -1, horizontal phase shift of -60. And a y-intercept of 0. So once again, we need to space out our graph. We need to be able to space out our graph here. I can pretty much stay in the middle. I need to be maybe a little top heavy or bottom heavy, but it doesn't matter too much. I'm not that far off my theta axis. And the period is 720 degrees, so I need to be able to space out. So I'm going to make my 90s. These sizes almost be your 90s. So we have 90, 180, 270, 360, 450, 540, 630, and 720. And then I can divvy these up into thirds because I'll need them into thirds. So I got my thirds here. And once again, we did a decent job with this, with our graphing. Horizontal phase shift is -60, so that is my theta start value. So at -60, I start and I have a sine function. So I have a sine function. I'm going to draw on my prime axis. My prime axis will be at -1. So I have my theta prime axis at -1. At -60, I'll be on the prime axis. 720 away takes me to a value of 660. So this is 630. So I'm up one more. I'll be on my prime axis then. Then I start playing my games of halves at 300. 300 on the prime axis. 120, I'll be at a peak. My peak is up 3, so I'll be up at 2. And my valley value happens halfway between 300 and 660. That's 960. 480. So 480 will be at a valley. And I cross at the 0 value there. Just get my graph in. Last one, we can draw on the prime axis at a value of 1. We have amplitude of 2 from that value of 1. Period goes from -15 to 165, so it's 180. That was a common mistake. A lot of you said it was 150 because you added 165 and -15. You said the period was 150. That's incorrect. We have 15 degrees. We have 15 degrees to go on this side, and then we have another 165 to go over there. So we go 15 plus the 165, so the period's 180. Our B value comes down to 2 then. And I just went to the -15 with my horizontal phase shift, so I have y equals 1 plus 2 cosine 2 theta plus 15. I also could have went to 165, so I have theta minus 165. That would be correct also. You only had to do 2 of them. You had to do the bottom one and one of these 2. Each one was worth 5 points apiece. Once again, this is a way for you to evaluate and also for me to evaluate how you're handling the material. Maybe make some little corrections that you need to make. Some of you straight edge wise, just need to make sure you get the straight edge in there. Questions you have about the in-class assignment? All right, I gave you a second day of graphing. Some of you have a pretty good handle of this already, so second day was just you going through more material. Questions you need me to go through, things that still give you issues. The things you still like me to go through. Once again, it's the same stuff that we've done already. Should have the solutions to check. You can check. Hopefully you did check them. For your Google Classroom comes in handy. Anything you need me to go through? All right, tomorrow we'll have a quiz. Now, the first set of problems. The first set of problems as you go through these. The instructions say, find the amplitude, period, vertical, horizontal phase shift, and y-intercept. You're not being asked to graph anything here. You're just finding all the pertinent information. Well, let's take a look at this because we have a base equation. Y equals vertical phase shift plus or minus the amplitude sine cosine B theta minus horizontal phase shift. I take advantage of this type of problem to review over some of your algebraic skills. The coefficient of theta has to be a value of 1, which means I need to have this as a b value on the front. Well, if I take a look at problem number 2, we have y equals -4 minus 2 cosine of 10 theta plus 120. The problem we run into is this value here is 10 and not the value of 1. Our b value is this value out here. So we need to use an algebraic skill to rewrite this. The question is, how do we get that coefficient of theta equal to 1? What algebraic skill can we do to get that coefficient equal to 1? Once again, this just brings back fond memories of what we have.
Divide it out, so you can have 10 theta plus 12.
Okay? We're going to factor out this greatest common factor of 10 by dividing both of these terms by 10. So you're left with theta plus 12. Okay, what we're doing is we're factoring out a greatest common factor. Once again, this is an algebraic skill. And I'm taking advantage of this opportunity to be able to review this. Now it's a matter of finding amplitude, period, vertical, horizontal phase shift. Now, just a reminder, if I look at my amplitude, what's our amplitude here? What would be our amplitude? Mia? 2. 2. It's a value 2. We do not include the negative here. The other little trick I would, not trick, but the other idea that I would suggest to you, your y-intercept is where theta is equal to 0. Go back up to your original equation and put 0 in for theta. Because this is going to be 10 times 0, which is going to give me 0. So we're left with y equals -4 minus 2 cosine of, this goes to 0. I have 120 there. And once again, you can clickety-clack that straight through your calculator. You can type this in as is and hit your enter button and find your y-intercept. You don't have to do pieces parts. You don't have to do cosine of 120 and then, you know, don't combine these together because this is a coefficient and this is a constant. Okay, I cannot combine this into a -6. I type in -4 minus 2 cosine of 120 and hit my enter button. Let's take a look at problem number 4 real quick. we have y equals -5 minus 4 cosine of 3/2 theta minus 90. Once again, need to get that coefficient of theta equal to 1. So what are we going to divide by here? Both, what are we going to divide, factor out? Sean? 3/2. So I'm going to divide by 3/2. Now, if we divide by 3/2, the 3/2 will come out front. And this is just going to give me 1 theta, which is what I want. This I have to divide by 3/2. Now, what you have to watch out for is how you deal with this in your calculator. We have 90, and we're going to divide by parenthesize 3 divided by 2. So you quantify that 3/2. Or if you want to change it to a 1.5, you could do that also. You can go 90 divided by 1.5. But make sure in your calculator you go 3 divided by 2 within these parentheses. Or like I said, you can go 90 divided by 1.5. You do not have to graph on the front side. 5, 6, 7, and 8 are your graphs. Now what I will do with your graphs, I will give you one positive sign, one positive cosine, one negative sign, one negative cosine. So you have one of each. But I will not make you factor out your greatest common factor. Okay, they are already coefficient already on the front. And then the bottom ones, find the amplitude, period, vertical, horizontal phase shift, and then the equation. Make sure in your equation, when I ask you for the equation, if I don't have y equals there, it's not an equation. An equation is something that has an equal sign. If you don't have an equal sign, you don't have an equation. So once again, I will take points off. First off, if you don't use straight edges, I'll take a point off. If you don't go y equals, I'll take a point off also. I won't do it in each and every problem, but I'll take a point off. I'll just straight edge, -1. Y equals -1. Questions you have? Alright, I have solutions posted, I have solutions up here. The rest of the time is going to be given to you to work on these. took it for you. Oh, man.